Cairo includes roughly 800 Islamic monuments, including, of course, mosques and water fountains and schools, each reflecting the architectural styles of every Islamic era in Egypt. Beginning with the Muslim conquest by Amr ibn al-As, of course, in 693 till 642 in the 7th century. How did architecture develop in the Islamic Cairo?
Okay, firstly, let's begin with Amr ibn al-As when he started the first mosque in Egypt and in Africa, of course.
It's in Old Cairo, of course.
Yes, in Old Cairo and Fustat. Of course, there is another interesting story about the Fustat itself.
Tell us the interesting story.
I want firstly to mention that, yes, it's true that Amr ibn al-As mosque is the first mosque in Egypt, yet it's not the one that we're seeing right now, because they were using the way of construction that they were using it in Arabia. These guys were not professional in building. They were not having this kind. So they were building with simple materials. So Amr ibn al-As mosque was built with very simple materials like mud, and also this kind of wood lumbers, and some very basic material. And when the flood starts in Egypt, it comes like when it starts to flood in every 6 months in Egypt before Aswan's high dam.
To bring it down.
Yeah, every single year. So it was well known that Amr ibn al-As they start to renovate it time by time. When Ahmed ibn Tulun came and took role as the Sultan of Egypt that time, and his background was coming from Turkey, and he was originally born in Samarra in Iraq. And Samarra stands for, is an abbreviation for the Arabic term Surra Man Ra'a, because of the beauty of the architecture there. So he was having this fascinating dream of building some kind of sustainable mosque. And of course, mosque at that time is showing the power of the country itself. It's not about the religion, it's about the power, because it was a religious country at that time. So when they started to build it, he asked for an architect that can build a mosque that will not be drawn by floods or will not be burned like what happened in Amr ibn al-As mosque. That's why, and I'm quoting, this is exactly what happened, they brought him a Coptic architect. Until now, we don't know if the Coptic architect was Muslim or Christian, because at that time, Egypt, or Egyptians, by the foreigner rulers, were called Coptic.
Yes.
So they brought him a Coptic architect, and they built...
And of course, many Egyptians had all the right, whether to convert into Islam or to remain as Christian.
And it was the right name for Egyptians at that time, Coptic. So they brought him a Coptic architect, and they started to construct the famous Ahmed Tulun Mosque. This was a miracle of construction that were using the old techniques of Egyptian architecture at that time, and then after a while started to develop their own way, especially when the Fatimid era starts to evolve in Egypt.
Sorry to interrupt you, but sir, is it the Mosque Amr ibn al-As, there's no any plans to renovate this very important...
Yes, this happened several times, and this happened also at the Ottoman Empire era. So the recent one...
Nowadays, as we're working on renovating most of the...
It's an Ottoman style. It's not the real Amr ibn al-As mosque style. And you can see it very well when you check the minaret. The minaret, the Ottoman style minarets, it has this kind of pencil-shaped minarets. So you can see it very well. It looks like a rocket. It differs a lot from the Mamluki era minarets, which was the peak of the Mamluki era, the development of the minarets themselves, because this was another story in construction and architecture. And it has also a story about the shape itself.
So when you personally see a minaret, you know automatically from...
Sure.
So a rocket is Ottoman.
Yes, a rocket shape.
We're trying to learn.
We call it, we call it pencil-shaped minarets.
Yeah, it's very obvious.
Yeah, so this is Ottoman. The octagon-shaped minaret is Mamluki, and it starts with an octagon. It starts with the square.
Yes.
Because this means in the philosophy, I told you about the philosophy before this. Yeah. So this means in the Islamic philosophy, the four ways of the Islamic.
Yes.
Exactly. So it starts with a solid base with a square shape, and then it developed with a cantilever, and this is a very interesting thing in the architecture, a cantilever balconies into an octagon shape. And the octagon shape refers to the 8 angels that holds Allah's throne.
Yes.
And then it develops into this very tiny peak, which we call it in Arabic al-Jawsaq, which refers to Sidrat al-Muntaha.
Wow.
So it has a journey. So the way that they were thinking of building the minarets.
That's the Mamluki.
That's the Mamluki era. That's why we're calling that Egypt is or actually Cairo is the town or the city of 1,000 minarets, because minarets were very developed in the Mamluki era.
What about the Fatimid minarets?
Fatimid minarets were not developed the right way. We're having in Al-Hakim Ba'amrillah Mosque, for example, what we call as mabkhara. We don't know yet if it's a minaret or it's a dome. It's something in between. It wasn't developed yet.
Anything defines the Ayyubid minarets?
Well, in Ayyubid, we're having a very famous Ayyubid dome. But at that time, at that certain time, in the Ayyubid era, before Mamluki era and after Fatimid era, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of architecture monuments, because at that era, Egypt was involved a lot in other military stuff and facing the Crusades on its borders. So, for example, we can find the Citadel, Cairo Citadel, as a monument for architecture that shows the other military architecture style. Yet we will not be able to find a lot of minarets or other things. The most famous thing is the Ayyubid dome in also my style.
Architect Al-Essawy, what about the minarets in Al-Masjid Al-Haram or in Mecca or in Medina? I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, would want to ask this question.
Yeah, these are on Ottoman style.
Ottoman.
Yes, because, and also the green dome thing, all of these touches were developed in the Ottoman style when Saudi Arabia was under the Ottoman Empire era. And also they tried to make it as the same main philosophy of the mosque itself. The same main philosophy was start with a main squarish, what we call as sahn or fina, or actually courtyard. So it starts with this squarish courtyard and surrounded with 4 corridors with ceilings, and the most, or actually the deepest corridor that is having al-Qibla inside it.
We can see this in Sayyida Nafisa, for instance.
It's in every mosque. This is the main principle that starts with, it starts in Masjid al-Haram in Mecca and Medina, and it's developing all over the world. And when it comes in Turkey and other European styles, they started to make some ceilings for the dome, for the courtyard itself, because of the rain. So they were using the culture of the country that they entered to.
I have one final question. I know that we're out of time, but I must ask this question. And it's about the Andalusian architecture, that beautiful architecture. I want to know, and I guess also many viewers want to make sure of, how did the mix happen to give us this beautiful architecture?
Okay.
The mix between Islamic, of course, and European.
Yes, yes. Well, we will have a lot of different stories about this, of course. And we were talking about in the Indonesian architecture style. We need to see that it has different phases. So firstly, it was the Umayyad style, and then we became to Dawlat al-Muwahhidin and other styles. So this kind of integration between the two nations at that time, because there was no differences in religions that time, it was a law that we use each one, even Muslims, Christians, Jews. Anyone is very welcome to this new country to build in it. So it starts with this, but of course after 800 years, it starts to have this kind of problems, and then we can find the results right now. But it's a beautiful example that you said, of course, about the Indonesian style, because it's mixed between the European style and the Islamic style with a new taste, which is based on Indonesia. It's not European, it's not Islamic 100%, it's not Arabian, it's Indonesian.
Andalusian.
Yes, exactly.
Mr. Hisham Al-Essawy, interdisciplinary designer and interior architect. We had the pleasure, of course, to have you with us in today's episode of Nile Cruise. Thank you so much for your knowledge.
Thank you for
It's been a joy and it's been informative.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Nile Cruise. Dear viewers, this was this segment of Nile Cruise. Stay with us. We'll be back again. Me and Mohammed Abdurrahim. Stay tuned.
أنت هدي